Walmart, the world's largest retailer, says it is ending some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. The rollback was first reported by Bloomberg, that is, News, and confirmed by the retailer on Monday. Walmart will also be removing some LGBTQ-related merchandise from its website and winding down its nonprofit, the Center for Racial Equity, that funded programs for minorities. In a statement, Walmart said it is willing to change alongside our associates and customers who represent all of America. The retailer joins a list of major corporations like Molson Coors that have stepped back from diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts after feeling the heat from conservative activists. Walmart Canada did not reply to questions from CBC News about what impact these changes might have in Canada. All right, well, to dig into whether or not DEI policies are actually effective, we're joined now by Riley Yesno and Goldie Gamari. Riley is a writer and Indigenous advocate, and Goldie is an independent MPP in Ontario. Both join us tonight from Toronto. Thank you both for taking the time. I'm going to start with you, Riley, and then we'll go to you, Goldie. And let me just get your initial thoughts on Walmart rolling back basically their DEI policies.
Yeah. So my first response was like a little bit like of a yeesh, because I think some people have started to equate this with, the Trump effect as part of Trump's general ideology that we are seeing corporations and other entities beyond just, his personal government or his government, I should say, responding to that. That we would see similar sort of gestures take place. I think one of the things that was struck me, though, is that Walmart, as far as I have ever been able to tell, wasn't actually doing like the most of any corporation out there when it came to DE&I in the first place. That I don't think they're widely looked at as a major, progressive, left-leaning sort of corporation to begin with. And so maybe not necessarily surprised, but certainly thinking about what that precedent means for other corporations, and also hoping that people could use this as an opportunity to really think about what DEI that is not just, representation of who you have on staff, but actual structural work to make the lives better of most marginalized communities actually look like. And I don't think Walmart was doing that in the first place.
Okay, so needless to say, you are concerned.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, Goldie, your initial take on this.
So my first, real job about 25 years ago was in retail. It was a Future Shop, and we didn't really have any DEI programs back then, and it wasn't something that really impacted me as a Future Shop employee. So when I heard that Walmart is rolling back its DEI program, my first reaction was, Walmart has a DEI program? Because I think there's a time and place for DEI. I don't really think, store like Walmart is really one of those places. If anything, I think Walmart employees would benefit more from the funding and resources being used for DEI programs to actually go towards their wages and salaries. I think if you want to actually support your employees, pay them better. Stop wasting resources on things that might not necessarily be helpful within that context, and focus on what your employees actually want. So, and I think the fact that Walmart is rolling this back, it shows this trend of companies that kind of like jump on the bandwagon, not necessarily because they think it's the right thing to do, but because they just want to be part of the trend. And I think this is just Walmart being part of the trend now.
Okay, Riley, let me get your thoughts on that. And also this idea that we are hearing from some in the United States right now that these DEI programs really encourage quotas, and it should be about the skill set that somebody brings to a particular position as opposed to their gender identity or their race, etc.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a couple of thoughts. One being that I agree that one of the things that was really frustrating, I think, about Walmart's DE&I policies to begin with was that they have, at the same time that they're doing this, and I think some of the things that they're rolling back on, they actually should be keeping, which are things like racial equity training for their staff to make sure staff members, whether it's in stores or, at the corporate administrative level, also aren't discriminated against. Those are things that I think are positive. Looking and trying to prioritize suppliers that hire LGBTQ people or racialized people, that I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time that they're doing that, again, that they do have thousands of their full-time employees that are still on food stamps, that are still on Medicaid. And so I agree that ultimately also they are, as much as they might want to say, okay, you shouldn't face racism at work, you should also be able to feed yourself. And I think that those things go hand in hand with supporting your employees. On the other end, another part that's like sort of coming up for me as well, is just that I think that it's when people say that we shouldn't have essentially like these affirmative action programs essentially. And this is something that's come up a lot, especially in the States with college admissions and all of these things, is I think that that logic really underwrites a historical and structuralist view of society, which says before people even get to the resume stage, people look at names, and there are countless studies that say if a name reads racialized, people throw it out. When people come to interviews, if they think you present a certain way, if they read you as part of a community, if you have internal bias that you don't get even the job in the first place, regardless of your qualifications. So I think if people actually really cared about qualifications, that they should be supporting the policies like good DE&I does, which makes it so that other factors about a person's identity don't actually prohibit them from being in the running in the first place.
Okay, Goldie, let's pick up there and kind of zooming out to the larger conversation beyond Walmart. When there is unconscious bias, why not have these DEI departments so that they can tackle that and have representation?
Okay, but where's the proof of the unconscious bias is my question. I mean, look at my name. My last name is pretty racialized. And I put the term in quotations because, me as a visible minority, I actually despise the term racialized because if anything, it's turning attention towards the fact that I'm a visible minority when all I want as a visible minority immigrant woman is to just be considered equal to everyone else. So by constantly pushing this narrative on me and people like me, racialized, visible minority, blah, 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 it just makes me feel even more separate, right? Like, can we just kind of move beyond that? I mean, look at my last name, Goldie Gamari, right? My legal name is still Gorsara Mari. It's a pretty racialized name, and yet I have no difficulty. I had no difficulty getting elected twice. It was never an issue. So I think, in some cases, I feel like the pendulum has swung so far to the extreme left that I think people are just sort of getting tired of it, right? Like they're getting tired of identity politics. They're getting tired of focusing on an appearance or whatever. Like, we just want to live our lives and let's just focus on skill set. Let's focus on quality. And I would hope and I would assume that if I'm applying for a position, that I'm not going to be hired because I'm the token person who meets a quota, because that would actually be disrespectful to me and my capabilities as, as a professional or as a job applicant, right? Like I want someone to look at my skill set, look at my qualifications and hire me based on that. Like I don't want to be a quota.
Let me just ask both of you a final question. Riley, I'll put this to you first. Do you think that President Trump taking the White House again and the Oval Office, this is signaling a change that you're seeing Walmart and some of these other large corporations, and you are likely going to see more and more because that is something that he has talked a lot about and people in his circle have, getting rid of some of these DEI departments. What do you think we're going to see in the next 4 years of Trump?
My initial instinct was just be saying yes, that I think that would happen. I mean, what's happening in the background of Walmart doing this, of course, is that they've also made public statements expressing concerns about, for example, some of the tariffs he's threatening to impose or trying to impose. So they have an interest in appealing to the political powers of the day as all corporations do, but especially major big corporations like Walmart that have those connections and that presence. And I note that a lot of the time that they rolled out these DEI policies in the first place were around 2020 with the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests. So like an underlying message about this all is always that the corporations don't actually care about the people that buy from them so long as you're buying from them, and that the government makes it easy for you to buy from them. Okay. I think that Walmart is like kind of a perfect example of this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it happening with other companies going forward.
Okay, first point was to you, Riley, so last point will go to you, Goldie. Your final thoughts.
Thank you. I actually agree with Riley that corporations don't care. I think a lot of times when they jump on certain bandwagons, it's disingenuous, and they're basically doing it because they want your money. They want you to buy from them. And we're seeing this constantly. We're seeing this with other companies and corporations as well. So in terms of Walmart, I mean, again, they're just a corporation looking for profits. But I think in terms of the whole DEI narrative in general, again, I feel like the pendulum has swung so far to one side that it's now slowly starting to come back to the center, and we're seeing more and more of that, right? I mean, ultimately, I think identity politics has gone so far that people just want to focus on just being themselves, right? And not being a topic of conversation. Like, let's just, we have a vibrant, diverse society, but ultimately we're all Canadians. Let's focus on that first. Thanks.
Okay, got to leave it there. Riley Yesno, writer, Indigenous advocate. Goldie Gamari, independent MPP here in Ontario. Our thanks to both of you.